My name is Darryl Kwal. We begin tonight with some trade issues, and the Chinese government, in collaboration with the Ministry of Trade and Industry, has launched an exhibition for local businesses to showcase their products on the Chinese market. The meeting platform will start from November this year and will serve as an opportunity for local business owners to woo foreign investors into Ghana. Joy Business's Bismarck Awusa has more.
As part of China's One Belt, One Road initiative, which seeks to facilitate trade among various countries across the world, the country will be hosting an international import exposition this year to support economic globalization. Fortunately, Ghana is among some African countries selected to exhibit its products on China's 1.3 billion market. Speaking to Joy Business after a media briefing on the exposition, Economic and Commercial Counselor at the Chinese Embassy, Chai Zhenhing, said it is a good opportunity for local exhibitors to woo foreign investors into the country.
At the moment, for the bilateral trade is concerned, Ghana is our top 10 trading partners in Africa. But at the moment, Ghana's trade with China is in a deficit. So that means Ghana buys more from China than its export. So I think this import-export will be a very good opportunity for Ghana to show its potential, what it can offer to the Chinese consumers.
Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Carlos Ahenkra, expressed his outfit's commitment to supporting local manufacturers and business owners in this regard.
Unfortunately, as you heard him say, the information came a bit later in the year, just close to the Christmas festivities, so they were not able to bring them out. We're just hearing it, not for the first time though, but we're just having this press release. But unfortunately, the early bird period ends 31st of January. We have pleaded with them to extend it one more month. We want to take advantage of that early bird offer and have a whole pavilion to ourselves outside the individual enterprises that are going to have their own pavilions. Which I know that a lot of companies are going to have their own individual showcasings. If our request is accepted, or if our 1 month moratorium is given, I can assure you that within the month of February we'll be able to affirm our commitment to take a pavilion for Ghana in the expo.
Mr. Ahenkra is therefore urging small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, to seize the opportunity to make more gains.
SMEs form about 80 to 85% of all the companies or industries that we have in here. And they even suffer the most because many large companies are either multinational or they have their import based countries outside Ghana. So after manufacturing, they don't suffer any distribution problems or penetration issues. Those that suffer most are the SMEs in Ghana who sometimes lack market penetration or visibility. So this is an opportunity for them, especially the SMEs, to develop their potential and go out there and have a bigger space to sell.
The first China International Import Exposition will be held in Shanghai from November 5th to November 10th, 2018. It hopes to attract exhibitors and purchasers across the world. Bismarck Awusa's report for Joy Business.
Government is taking steps to ensure that all projects it is undertaking with private firms can be tracked by the public. To this end, the Finance Ministry has launched a web-based portal to ensure transparency when it comes to public-private partnership projects. Launching the web portal, Senior Minister Yao Safumafo said government is working to put in place the necessary laws to give real meaning to this initiative.
We have received a bill. Normally, making the law starts with a bill. The bill is sent to Cabinet. Cabinet itself has its procedure. It goes to a committee of Cabinet, in this case, the Legal and Governance Committee, and they look at it, then it is submitted at the plenary of the whole Cabinet. So we are at the stage where the draft bill is with the committee that is responsible for looking at laws.
And any timeline that we are working with to ensure that they will be in place to guide this whole process?
No, not that I know, because I'm not on that committee. And I don't know how ready the final product is. And when it comes, Parliament has the final say. The bill will go to Parliament, Parliament will debate and finalize it to pass the bill into an act. So, and we don't know how long that will take. Don't forget that Parliament is going to sit this time around. They have only 34 days of sitting. So if you don't get there in time, you may not even get it through at this sitting.
But how critical is this law for this whole public-private partnership process for government?
It is important, but without it, private-public investment is going on. It's not like without that law, no private-public investment can go on. Projects have been going on, so we need to do it and do it right.
So you emphasize transparency, that transparency is very key.
Yes, it is. At the end of the day, why the PPP? We are going for the PPP as a way of creating a partnership between the private sector and the public sector. And we don't want a situation where the public sector, that's the government, loses to the private sector because of lack of transparency. So we should all be sure that the data we are using are correct. This is very important. You can't go and buy a machine for 10 cedis and record it at 12 cedis. So when we talk about transparency, we are talking about project cost. We are talking about the actual investment values. There must be tracking system, for instance, that somebody comes in, he's going to do mining, and he says, I'm investing $800 million US. We must make sure that the system tracks the investment of 800 million. Not that he puts in 500 and finally it turns out 800 in the box. So that is why the need for transparency is very important in the PPP arrangements.
Well, government is awaiting a bill to be passed by Parliament to enable it offer significant tax reliefs and other incentives to potential investors in the One District, One Factory program. The tax incentives are expected to encourage investors to take advantage of the program. Now, Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Carlos Ahenkwa, spoke with Joy Business, and he said that the bill will be passed into law once it gets cabinet approval. Ebenezer Sabote has the rest of the story.
The much-touted One District, One Factory program by the government, which seeks to encourage the private sector to spearhead and promote the country's industrial transformation, is yet to see a full thrust. Ministry of Trade and Industry, in collaboration with the One District, One Factory Secretariat, is considering some incentives to attract both local and foreign investors for various projects. These were made known during an interview with Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Carlos Ahenkwa.
You can be rest assured that there's going to be a set of incentives that people are going to be very interested in. Investors are going to have a look at it and see it as a main attraction to enter into Ghana and put their monies here. This incentive is going to go to Parliament, as far as I'm concerned, when the cabinet, of course, the president assents to it and agrees on these incentives, for us to be able to roll it out and let people see it as a way to take advantage and invest in Ghana.
Is it going to include tax reviews for such people, tax waivers?
It's going to include even quotas for expatriate staffing and so on. Everything that you can think about will be there. Anything that can get people coming in here to invest will be there. We are, in terms of economic development or enhancement, I would say that we were born before Rwanda. But if you go to Rwanda today, the kind of tax incentives, the kind of business incentives that they have for business promoters coming into their economy, it's so wonderful.
Carlos Ahenkwa was speaking on the sidelines of the inauguration of the Baltic Company's new packaging line at its factory at Akwedum near Nsawam in the eastern region. The $6.5 million plant is expected to process about 24,000 bottles of water an hour. Philip Wellington is the manufacturing manager of Baltic Ghana Limited.
Yeah, we invested $10 million USD into this plant, 6.5 into plant and machinery, and then 3.5 million into technology and into people. It's a fully automated line where quality is guaranteed, and it's also in a shrink wrap. It's a convenient pack with an handle, which makes it easier for consumers to just pick it off the shelf to their homes.
So tell us briefly, how many people are going to be employed?
This site has about 150 people currently on this single line. About 70 of them are like permanent staff, and the rest is like a contract arrangement through Lene Services.
Voltic has become a subsidiary of the Coca-Cola Beverages Africa Group and has been operating in Ghana for 23 years.
Taking a trip to the Central Region, and the Ogua Teachers Credit Union says it is hoping to make the youth of Cape Coast wealthy by provision of startup plans outlined this year. Many youth in Cape Coast are without jobs, a situation that has become a major challenge for city authorities. But at an annual general meeting of the union in Cape Coast, the youth and creation of wealth became the key focus, with a promise by the union to help the youth. Richard Kujonyako has more in this report.
The issues of unemployment in Cape Coast have been a major agenda on the hearts and minds of the board and management of the Ogua Cooperative Credit Union. The union, a corporate entity of teachers and other workers, pool resources together to help their members improve upon their lives, undertake major projects, and also grow their businesses. Through dint of hard work, the membership drive of the union has grown by 31%, with savings of its members soaring up to 8.5%. Board chairman of the union, Nana Kojo Boatenado, says the focus of the union now is to turn the attention to the youth of Cape Coast to have startup plans to create diverse businesses to reduce the spate of unemployment.
We have carefully selected for our meeting this year the theme, the Credit Union Concept, focusing on the youth in wealth creation. This theme, we believe, is very relevant in view of the teeming number of youth who form the greater portion of our populace as a nation, and who unfortunately have not yet been brought into the culture of saving. The future of every union lies.
Well, turning to some other news now, the Chamber for Petroleum Consumers Ghana has reiterated its call to government to remove all nuisance taxes on the petroleum price build-up, including the special petroleum tax, to bring some relief to consumers as a result of the consistent petroleum price hikes. According to the General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, Solomon Kote, who is also Vice Chairman of the Chamber, the special petroleum tax is not only a nuisance tax but avoidable in the face of rising prices on the world market. Earlier, Executive Secretary of the Chamber, Duncan Amo, explained on the marketplace.
Special petroleum tax is about one of the taxes leading all of us into a ditch. Anytime international market prices go up, you find special petroleum tax also going up. What it means is that whilst we complain of hurricane development, world market price surges, then special petroleum tax is also going up. If you ask the leadership of the country what specifically we are doing with SPT, it doesn't have any particular purpose. And one thing we know is that it was introduced somewhere 2015 just to shore up revenue for government at the time that world market prices had dipped so low. Unfortunately, when prices began going up from the 28 to 30 to 40, even to 50, we still saw no need at all to do away with that tax. So today, as we speak, when you buy 1 gallon of petrol at any pump, you are paying more than 2 cedis 30 pesos in special petroleum tax alone. That is quite significant, and we think that if you do a comparative case study of how much fuel is costing around the world, Ghana wouldn't have any justification at all to sell the same fuel that we co-import with Nigeria for 20 cedis 83 pesos, when our counterparts in Nigeria are able to trade at 10 cedis, when our counterparts in Benin are able to do 15 cedis, when our counterparts even in the United States, a highly industrialized economy that has so much demand for petrol, is able to do about 15 cedis equally. Russia is doing about 15, 16 cedis. You go to Dubai, it's about 15, 16 cedis. Algeria, Egypt is 7 Ghana cedis as we speak. Clearly, something must be wrong with our system.
Now, Duncan,
we think that this ought to be corrected immediately.
While still in the space, a downstream oil industry player and CEO of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senor Jose, has criticized successive governments' continuous grip of the state oil refinery tour. Experts have cautioned government's attempts to establish new oil refineries to make Ghana a refinery hub. Taking its turn on the executive lounge, CEO of the Chamber Senior Hossi described the interference of politicians in the oil refinery business as defeating economic principles considering the current performance of the state's oil refinery.
I don't think we should have a refinery that is government-owned either.
Why?
I don't think government has any business doing business, in Ghana in particular. We are very poor business people. Government businesses end up being rent-seeking institutions. That's why TOR is in the situation that it is in. That's why BOST has always been in the situation that it is in. It's always making losses. You pump a lot more money in there, you still get a worse situation. We've been paying TOR debt recovery levy for how many years now? We started the debt was about 490 or so million during Kufuor's time. We paid. When Kufuor left, Mills said it was 900. We paid. When JM came, it was 4 billion. So what are we really paying? So it means that we're actually funding inefficiency and possibly thievery or ineptitude, I don't know, or incompetence. There's something that we are funding. There are other sectors in our economy that would require a bit of that investment to yield a certain socioeconomic impact. And that, for me as an economist, becomes quite critical. How do you optimize the application of your resources? Do I keep chasing 300 million, dumping 300 million in a refinery that is going nowhere? Do I go and look for 2-3 billion cedis or 1 billion cedis, $1 billion to build a refinery that will now be exposed to weak economics? Can I invest in agriculture, tourism, which I think are trump card to, economic sustainability and prosperity?
That's what I call it, a low-hanging fruit.
You know, I wouldn't chase refining yet. I rather want to encourage private capital to come and do that. Because let me tell you what happens. I'm a politician. I appoint the MD. The guy is not being driven by pure commercial goals and objectives. He's not looking at how to buy and sell profitably. He's just looking at being operational, that he's operating. The politician puts him there. The politician calls you tomorrow, buy crude from Kofi. Because your appointment is tied to that politician, you go to Kofi. Kofi may just be $1 more expensive than where you could have bought it from. But guess what? That $1 on 1 million barrels is how many dollars? And that may just be your profit on the whole transaction.
So you'd rather...
When the guy makes losses, the next question you should ask yourself, when TOR makes losses, who pays? Do you see the management of TOR pay? Do you see the board of TOR pay? The owner is government, it's the taxpayer, it's us who pay. And the people who take the decision, none of them pays. The Minister of Energy will not pay, the President will not pay. None of them will pay. And tell the politicians, their tax contribution is just like that. In fact, the President doesn't even pay taxes.
Well, be sure to catch the Executive Lounge this weekend, 6 p.m. on Saturday, 8 p.m. on Sunday. Now, have you thought about Samsung phones being assembled here in Ghana? Well, that could happen. Yes, that could happen if the country is able to meet some conditions required by the electronics giant Samsung. We're going to hear next from Samsung African boss Sun Yoon on those conditions that would influence this strategic decision. Now, if that materializes, it could go a long way to reduce the cost of a Samsung phone. That is, if you're a Samsung freak. This is because the freight and import taxes would be taken off.
It's a matter of time, right? So two things we can say. There are any companies have the short-term planning and long-term planning. So as a short-term plan for next 3 to 5 years, there's no plan for us to do a local assembly. And the longer term, like over 5 years or 10 years, definitely we will consider if we can have a local assembly.
But if some waivers are extended to you as well from the government side, is this something that could be a motivating factor?
Well, government is one of the factors, but the first factor is the market size and the market situation. So this market is big enough to consider the local assembly. So if we do a local assembly, there definitely has a certain level of market demand.
Is the growth opportunities that good in this market, or we are getting to that saturating state?
That's a good point. So growth opportunities are definitely here. One of the most stabilized economy in Africa, Ghana. That's what I told you. Longer term plan, yes. If the growth is there, then we will consider.
Time to bring you our interview of the day, something on climate change. And well, coordinator of the Green Climate Fund Readiness Program, a global fund created to support the efforts of developing countries on climate change, Aribi Frimpong says the chances of Ghanaian organizations benefiting from the fund has increased. The Green Climate Fund will help mitigate challenges facing climate change. Now, he said this on the sidelines of a workshop to assess readiness.
Interview of the day.
I would say they are doing very well because in a way we have interacted with them over the period that we've implemented this project. We realized that they are willing to work to find out ways in which they themselves can contribute to private climate financing. So in that regard, I would say that it's quite positive in that regard.
But then for looking at the GCF right now, let's say an organization, a private organization wants to get funding. What should this organization do?
It's all about trying to make sure that you meet the standards of the GCF. And in this regard, we are looking at the fiduciary standards and also the environmental safeguards. And fiduciary standards, really, a lot of the banks in Ghana are already doing things that are close to what the GCF requires. So in that regard, they don't really have a lot of things that they need to do, just a few things that they need to polish up. But environmental standards are things that really we've been trying to support them, especially with this readiness, to see how they can meet those fiduciary standards. So in a way, we are sure that by meeting all these standards, they will be able to meet up to what the GCF requires. And that is what I think EcoBank, as we stated earlier, has been doing over the past 2 years. They've really worked very hard to reach that particular standard.
Interview of the day.
And that's it for our program tonight. Thanks for watching. My name is Darryl Kwao. There's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business.